we are thrilled to introduce two remarkable guests whose journey bridges cultures and disciplines. Padma Shri Nouf Marwaai, President of Saudi Yoga Committee and the first certified yoga teacher in Saudi Arabia, has elevated yoga in the Middle East. Joining her is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, a renowned spiritual leader, motivational speaker and author based in Rishikesh. She has authored the best-selling memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas. Sadhvi ji blends ancient wisdom with modern insights. She also serves as Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and is the co-president of Religions for Peace. Ladies, please welcome Padma Shri Nouf Marwaai and Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati for an inspiring conversation with my colleague Toya Singh from CNN News 18.
Good evening. We are going to change pace slightly and maybe touch on a topic that we all feel all around us at every single moment. Let's just go to you first. And I'm going to come over to both of you. I just want to tell our audiences a little bit about your journeys in the question that I asked you. So Sadhvi ji, who's sitting on my left, is someone who was studying as a Stanford researcher and at the age of 25 decided on her trip to India, and I'm not going to tell our audiences yet why you decided, why you agreed to come to India in the first place. But you came here, and when you came here, there was something that you felt that made you go, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Can you just share what that feeling was with our audiences first?
Beautiful, and it's such a joy and such an honor to be here. Most of us grow up, and I certainly did, with the belief that who we are is our bodies. The size, the shape, the color, the history, the experience, our roles, our relationships, our bank accounts, our personalities, that's who we are. And so we suffer. This is what I've come to call the Hollywood mindset. And I come literally from Hollywood, hence the name. But the Hollywood mindset is something in which we are told, you are your body. You are your success. You are your bank account. You are what you look like. And we suffer. We suffer because we feel not enough. I certainly suffered. Even as an adolescent, even in my 20s, even as successful from the outside as it looked, matlab you would have looked at me and said, ki uske paas sab kuch hai. Came from a very good family, had everything on the outside. And yet, in addition to personal challenges that I had been through, there's just a pervasive sense of I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not popular enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not good enough. And when I came to India, the story is too long to go into here, but yes, I came with a backpack at 25 in the midst of an adventure, in the midst of my PhD program in pediatric neuropsychology. And when I got to the banks of Ganga in Rishikesh, I had an experience that shifted me from a Hollywood mindset to a Himalayan mindset. And the Himalayan mindset tells us, you have a body, but you're not the body. You are soul, you are spirit, you are consciousness, you are full, you are whole, you are complete. There's nothing you're lacking. You are not those roles or relationships. You're not any of that. You are whole, you are full, you are one with the divine. So that experience that I had, and by the way, my personal Jivan Yatra was from Hollywood to the Himalayas. It's been now 28 years. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter कि आपका जीवन यात्रा कहाँ से कहाँ है, physically. What matters is that mindset in which we realize and recognize, and this is for me what happened on the banks of Ganga, was suddenly I realized, oh my God, there's nothing lacking in me. I've been created by a perfect creator, which means by default, I am perfect. Not when I lose the weight I want to lose, not when I look the way I want to look, not when I get an A on the exam I want to get an A on, not when this happens or that happens, not when I finally become the perfect daughter or wife or mother, but because I have been created, not only by, but of a perfect creator. Who we are is full and whole. And that shifted me from a focus of what's on my shelf in terms of possessions and titles and degrees and whatnot, to an experience of the fullness of myself. And I want to just say about this, you know, I think obviously all of us fall into that illusion of we are our bodies and our careers and our bank accounts and whatnot. But women particularly, there is an emphasis upon women to be that perfect physical body, to play that perfect role, and whether it's what we get from culture, society, TV, magazines, billboards, social media. And you think if all women took all the time that we spend every day thinking about what's wrong with our bodies, what's wrong with how we are as daughters, wives, mothers, and we stopped believing that lie, that we are pieces, how much time and energy we would have to actually bring change in the world. I mean, if we took that SheShakti and we stopped focusing on all the places that I feel small and weak and troubled and hurt and less than, and all the dramas and the narratives and the stories in our lives, we could end world hunger. We could end climate change. We could end everything that's afflicting our planet. That's that power that we have. When you talk about Yog Shakti, that is that power. Today we're seeing a lot of Yog Shakti, that power of division.
Can we just touch on what you just
said? Yes, of course.
Because I actually want to go over to Nouf with this. You talked a little bit about harnessing your own energy. And the reason I want to tie this into Nouf and your entire journey is because in your life, and again I want to share this with our audiences, you were grappling with an autoimmune disease of your own. You were in a region and at a time where the idea of yoga was not well known to the people around you. We're talking about Saudi Arabia, and this is a few years ago. And Nouf has pioneered the understanding of yoga at a very, very fundamental level. So just tell our audiences, because the thing here is we've all grown up with yoga as an idea in our heads. A lot of us do yoga. But you have faced teaching it to people who don't necessarily have that base, that fundamental idea of what it is. What were the roadblocks you came up against?
First of all, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, namaste to all of you. My journey with yoga started when I was 18 years old, and for a girl in Saudi Arabia, yoga wasn't there anywhere. I saw a book my dad brought from one of his travels because he was in martial arts, and that book was translated from Iyengar and Sivananda books, and I used to look at it. It wasn't easy to follow. But that particular year, doctors told my parents that I won't make it. I won't live anymore. That was 1998, and I was 18 years old. And my parents decided that I won't go to school anymore because of the symptoms. I was underweight. I had a lot of fatigue, depression, panic attacks. My joints will be stiff. If I wake up in the morning, I want to be able to move for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, especially if it's winter. And my extremities will turn blue and yellow. So after they kept me away from school, I started going to the internet and I bought a small book and I started practicing yoga. And like Sadhvi said when we were earlier in the meeting room, yoga grabs you. That I felt it in my heart because I started practicing and something inside me changed. My vitality, the way I sleep, and I think because I had sleeping disorders as young as 18 years old, was told that there is no cure. I developed depression and panic attacks. I wake up thinking I'm dying. All this changed. All this suddenly changed. So I fell in love with yoga, and since then until today, I never stopped practicing yoga, learning yoga. I'm still learning and teaching as well.
I want you to touch on though, because again, let's just share this with our audiences. In the last few years, you've trained a lot of very, very young children in Saudi Arabia. They actually took back medals at a recent international championship. And this is wild because you were competing in the Himalayas, you were competing in Nepal against, and I shouldn't say against really, but against cultures for who yoga had been a part of them integrally over the last few centuries. So just tell us a little bit about what teaching that looked like.
Okay, so this was Mount Everest Championship, the second, and it was under the International Yogasana Yoga Sports Federation. And because in Saudi Arabia we established the Saudi Yoga Committee, was established by the Olympic and Paralympic Committee of Saudi Arabia under Ministry of Sports. So we get a lot of support from leadership to train youth and support them to learn and also promote yoga as well. Be it the philosophy of peace and development or the practice itself. So one of the elements that we introduced, the yoga asana practice to young youth, because they wouldn't connect if it's not that element. And then we got invited to this championship in the Himalayas, and like you said, we were playing and participating with people who are practicing yoga since 6-7 years old, like India, Bangladesh, Nepal. And we went with 6 only yogis and 5 won. Right. And they're taking up yoga now more seriously in their lives. We got gold, 3 silver, and 1 bronze.
I just want to give them a round of applause. And let me just ask you, Sadhvi, here, and I'm actually, Nouf, I'm going to come to you with the same question. It's a short question, but I want to give our audiences who are with us here today a sort of takeaway. And I'm just going to ask them, in one of your interviews, you talked a little bit about how the challenge for all of us as human beings, and this has been part of your spiritual journey, is challenging each and every one of us to live in our full truth. And you said the real challenge for every one of us is actually to even spend a few minutes a day in our full truth. I thought that was very interesting because I just want you to define for our audiences, how can they feel what their full truth feels like?
It's always a challenge when you've got 20 seconds to sum up thousands of years of spiritual philosophy. But remember one thing. The full truth is that you are full. That there is nothing lacking. That Purna, that infinite divine, whatever religion you are, whatever path of faith or spirituality or tradition you come from, there's one thing that is true across all traditions. The divine is infinite. If the divine were not infinite, it wouldn't be God. So if we are created, not just by, but of that which is infinite, the very truth of who we are, that soul, that spirit, whether you learn it from Bhagavan Krishna in the Gita or you learn it in any of the other teachings, who you are is not your weight, it's not your skin color, it's not your relationships, it's not your bank account, it's not your followers on social media, it's not how much you've made the neighbors jealous. सारी जिंदगी उसमें चले जाते कि पड़ोसी क्या सोचेंगे, सामने वाले क्या सोचेंगे. We need to pull back and to anchor in who is that doesn't change, that is never born, that never dies, that is always true. In Vedanta we say Sat Chit Anand, that is the truth of who you are. You are existence itself, consciousness itself, bliss itself. And how to experience that? You go within. It's why meditation is such a critical part of yoga. My guru always says meditation is the best medication for all agitations. So whether it's an agitation of the mind, of the body, in the spirit, that meditation brings us into the truth of who we are. It's not a doing. People say, oh, how do you do meditation? It's not a doing. It's an undoing. You peel back in meditation layer by layer of the falsehood, of the stories, of the narratives, until you sink into a place that in Hinduism we speak about as everythingness. In Buddhism they speak about as nothingness. But it's that same experience of there's no place I end and the universe begins. There is no border, boundary. Our theme is breaking barriers. Yes, breaking glass ceilings, breaking stained glass ceilings, breaking all of these barriers. On this beautiful set of this scene, of this act of the divine drama in our karmic incarnation, and yet breaking barriers in our minds of that which separates us from each other, that which separates us from God, that which separates us from the earth. Yoga means union. But I actually think about it as a reunion. It's not that through yoga we suddenly become one with the divine, that Jivatma and Paramatma suddenly become one. It's that through yoga we remember, oh yeah, I am one with every blade of grass, every drop of water, every being on this planet. And in that, we experience that ecstasy, that bliss, that truth, that Sat Chit Anand. It's all just lastly in one last line. It's all our thoughts. Our thoughts are tickets. And if you have thoughts of separation, thoughts of just body consciousness, we suffer. If we shift the thought, the suffering ends and the healing begins.
Sadhvi, I'm going to have to say thank you. Let me also say to you, Nouf, thank you. And I just want to say in this moment, I hope and I feel and I pray that all you, our audiences, have felt a slight moment of truth. Because as you were speaking there, it really felt like we'd gone still for a second. We were all here together. Thank you for uniting all of us today evening.
Thank you, Toya, for that very lovely, inspiring, invigorating session, and thank you to our guests as well.